I'm Laura Stickells. Annabelle Hasselbeck is back in studio with me today. We did the remote episode last week. We enjoyed our Thanksgiving, but we're back here in the Nesson studios. And Annabelle, we have quite the episode planned for today. I think this is probably like our most wide-ranging episode topics-wise that we have ever done. We're going to talk the WNBA expansion draft, which is happening on Friday. We're going to talk about the NCAA volleyball tournament. We're hoping to talk about some engagements, some proposals, some weddings.
It's really all the things.
It's truly all the things. We're talking about Hallmark movies. We're talking about college football, flag planning, PWHL. Like, truly, I don't know how we're going to get to it all, but we're going to try. And we got to get right into it, though, because we're going to start by talking about this WNBA expansion draft for the Golden State Valkyries, which is happening on Friday. It's the 13th WNBA franchise. And we were talking a little bit about this yesterday. We called each other as we were, like, trying to go through the expansion draft rules, think about all of the different players, like, who may be up for grabs, who might not be up for grabs, like, who's not available, like, who can't be selected. And you know, it turns out being a WNBA GM is pretty complicated.
It's pretty complicated, and it's funny you brought up the WNBA GMs because they've been asked a lot during this process and, you know, before this expansion draft, and they definitely have a lot of mixed feelings because on the one end, yes, the WNBA is expanding. This is great for the growth. This is great for just the league in general. But then you're also all going to lose a player, right? You're all going to lose part of your program and what you've built. So it is going to be really interesting to see how they handle this, their emotions. But really, like, they're the ones who are able to build this.
Yeah, you really have to think to the future on this, think for the betterment of the entire league. But no, it's tough when you lose a player. And you know what? It's tough for that player, too, to feel like they've been, like, slighted almost by their team, that they weren't protected. And I think this is where we kind of get into those rules and really explain how this is going to work. So each of the 12 teams submits a roster of all of the players that they have rights to that are on their roster, and then they submit a list of the 6 players that they are choosing to protect. Everyone else except, okay, see, this is when it gets complicated.
Are you one of the 6?
Almost everyone else, it's up for grabs, except for what are called cord players. So essentially, like, a core player in the WNBA is like the NFL equivalent of the franchise tag. So if you've been cored twice, the Golden State cannot select them. And that includes players like Brittany Griner, Natasha Howard, DeWanna Bonner. Like, those are players who've been cored twice and Golden State can't select them. In addition to those players who are the 6 protected players in all of these 12 rosters. And the other thing is you can only select one player from each roster. You can't go back and double dip.
It feels like a game show, like how we're talking about it. I feel like this is like a board game. It's like, these are all the rules. But that cord players, it's really interesting because these rules have to be in place in order to not create these like all-star teams, right? It's a little similar and really just protecting from what we see in college athletics with fifth year is able to all go to the same school and kind of make these like powerhouse one-year programs, one-year superstar teams, really. So yes, a lot of the restrictions can seem heavy and a lot, and wait a second, does that really make sense? But truly, like, you have to protect from all superstar players fleeting to one team.
Yeah. Another interesting rule, too, with the unrestricted free agents, Golden State can only select one unrestricted free agent that's going to be a UFA this offseason. And if the UFA that they do pick then becomes a restricted free agent. So essentially then all the other teams have the opportunity to like match whatever it is that, or they have the opportunity to offer them, and then Golden State can then match whatever those other teams have offered. So it's kind of interesting. It's like, man, I wouldn't want to be that UFA that then like suddenly just is the one player that becomes the restricted free agent and doesn't have like full control over where they go in the off season. But yeah, no, that's another interesting rule too.
Yeah, well, just speaking of like full control, this is all, we're all guessing, right? Like nobody really knows who's protected, who's not. We can guess, and just, you know, reading from a short list of players who are definitely off the market for Golden State: Aaliyah Boston, Caitlin Clark, Asia Wilson, Cameron Brink. You're probably not going to be getting these players. Golden State. So really, it's just predictions that we're looking at.
Yeah, and I know like you and I, we both have kind of gone through a bunch of the different mock drafts and seen who we think might be available. But it's interesting too, because like you said, we don't know, and it's not like we're going to find out on Friday. These lists are not made public, so we'll never really know kind of who the protected players are, except for the ones that end up getting selected and they're gone. But it's going to be so interesting. And I know that we've both kind of like assembled a list of a couple players that we think might be available, or we think that teams will likely leave unprotected, and that we think Golden State should go after, and we'll get into that in just a minute. But it's so interesting when you look at all of these rules, because I was reading about some of the strategy of it too, and some people were saying, well, okay, so maybe if like you have a player that's on like an entry level, that's on a rookie contract, they're on a rookie contract for 3 years, that's a great deal, it's super valuable, so maybe you would end up protecting a player like that instead of protecting a player that's going to be a UFA this offseason, because it's like, well, Golden State can only take one UFA, so it's likely that it's not going to be ours. So there's all this strategy and gaming behind it too.
It's interesting to see how we're going to watch Golden State really be creative with it, because there are so many options that you can do. You can even trade to trade. Right?
Yes.
I think that was like, you can trade a player just so that you can trade them again. And so it will be really interesting to see. I know back in, I think it was 2008, I believe, when the Atlanta Dream were being the team that was expanded, the Indiana Fever organization decided to give up a second-round draft pick instead of, giving in order to protect an unprotected player. And so, that might hurt the depth of your roster, but it's interesting to see, okay, how is Golden State going to maneuver this?
Yeah, and when we say you can trade to trade, it essentially means like another team can, like, you can, like, Golden State can make a deal with another team, and they'll say like, okay, if you select this player, we will then trade this player for this player with you. It's very complicated.
It's a tough position for the players.
It's so tough, but it's really interesting, because I was reading too, like, there's a lot of conversations happening around the league right now where it's like GMs are having this conversation with their players, like, we can't protect you, but we're going to do the best we can to protect you anyways. And that's what you were saying about how teams will try to make deals with Golden State, be like, if you don't select this player, like, we'll give you something else, essentially. So it's fascinating. It's really interesting.
Darius Taylor, the Connecticut Sun GM, he said that it requires the organizations to just be open and honest with their players. And like you said, it's so important, because you do want to have a good relationship and be truthful with your players. But I do wonder, like, how much of this, because it's not public knowledge, like, what's the internal conversation? What does it look like? Because at the end of the day, it is a business.
Yes.
This is not a friend group. This is a business. As you can see, players are being traded. It happens in all sports. Even, college athletics is a business. And so, yeah, really interested to, on the backhand, learn, okay, how did this go down? What was the internal conversations? Did the players know that they were protected, that they weren't protected? Because I bet it varies organization to organization.
Yeah, but it's a good point too. It really makes every organization reflect and think about who are the players that are most valuable to this team. And there's different ways that a player can be really valuable. You can be really valuable because you're great, like, in terms of marketing and on the business side, and players really might like, or teams might really like a player for that, especially, the front office, like the people in marketing, in sales, they might really like a player like Kate Martin, who I know we're going to talk about too in just a minute.
Especially with the new team. Like, you are building a new program.
Yep.
You need new hype in that city. Like, you want to sell jerseys, right?
Yes.
That's a great point.
And that's going to be really valuable to Golden State and also to the team that they're coming from. So they need to weigh that in addition to how do they actually impact the product on the court, and how do they impact us actually winning, not just right now, but also in the future and 3 years down the line.
Also, strategy-wise, just more on the X's and O's. Does Golden State want to go for a shooting guard? Do they want to go for a post? Like, where are they really putting their strategy in on the court? And so I'm interested to see kind of who they go after. And like you said earlier, too, with just player personnel. There's value in getting a very talented rookie who's fresh, young, probably hasn't experienced too many injuries, right? But there's also a lot of value when you're building a team and veteran leadership. People who have been around the league, been in the WNBA, can kind of be that more motherly figure, really, to these new girls who they're bringing in, especially with a brand new team. Like, let alone the importance of having seniority leadership when you're on a normal team. Then you bring in the new factor of building a program. That's when you really need veteran experience.
Yeah, well, I think we should dive right into our list of the players that we think that Golden State might go after, that might be available, and kind of talk to that veteran leadership that you're speaking about. And the one player that on so many of the mock drafts people had listed as the unrestricted free agent that Golden State selects is Courtney Vandersloot. And you might be thinking, like, why would the New York Liberty leave Courtney Vandersloot unprotected? She's been one of the best point guards in the WNBA for such a long time. But you know what? This comes when the teams have to kind of figure out who do they value. And with Courtney Vandersloot, she's 35 years old. You have to think about all the other talented players. They can only protect 6. All the other talented players that are currently on that roster. She's also, like we said, she's already going to be a UFA this offseason. And in addition to that, she didn't start this past year for the New York Liberty. She kind of dropped, I think, around 8 minutes per game in terms of minutes. And she hasn't been playing quite as much as she has in the past. But I think, like, in terms of Golden State wanting to pick that one UFA, I think she'd be a great selection because, like you said, she could be such a great leader for that team. And she does have that history of being one of the best point guards, and she's won 2 WNBA championships. So definitely, I think, would be a great player for Golden State to go after.
Yeah, and there's also value for the player, right? Like having the opportunity to change teams. When you're on a really successful team, it's awesome and so fun. But she also probably really wants to play, right? She also probably wants to be one of those star players. And so similarly, another woman who definitely could use this opportunity. You know, it's not really her choice, but take this opportunity is Haley Jones, guard from Stanford on the Atlanta Dream. And this has also been heavily predicted. She's going to her 3rd year. She's 23 years old, super young. I'm like around that age. So like I'm saying it's super young. And she won a championship in college. She didn't get a ton of playing time this year, but she was, you know, on that rookie all-star team when she came into the league. So smart girl, Stanford alum, shout out Laura, Nerd Nation. And so I think this could be a really great fit for her.
Yeah, also she's from Santa Cruz. She's from the Bay Area. So when you're like looking to market your franchise, it's like, okay, one of our star players is from the area. That's not only did she like grow up there, but she went to school there. And I watched her play at Stanford. She was so good. She was such a great facilitator during her college years. And I remember like she was the MVP of the in March Madness in the Final Four in the year that they won it. I believe it was in 2021. And such a good leader too, like such a good voice and just presence on the bench, keeps everybody upbeat. And I was reading just some stuff about her from this past season, and it's saying like this is was her 2nd year in the league, and it seems like she's really started to kind of strike the balance between knowing when to shoot and knowing when to set up her teammates. It seems like that's been a big step that she's taken this year, as well as just getting more used to the pace of play in the WNBA. So I know, like you said, she hasn't played a ton so far, which is good for Golden State because it means like, you know, maybe she will be unprotected. But I think she does have that potential to be really successful. Great pick by you. Okay, so another one that we selected too, and you know what's funny, as we're going through this, I'm like, we're talking all about guards. And this just goes back.
You need someone to bring the ball up the court, so.
You do, but like all of their selections are guards, and this just goes back to like how hard it is really to assemble a roster. Like you can't just be thinking about like.
Well, we're predicting Golden State's probably going to go more on like outside shooter,
exactly.
point guard, get to the basket.
But I'm like, you know what, hopefully they've got some big that they're going after as well, because we don't. Anyways, but the next one that we selected too that we think that Golden State might get is Dana Evans from the Chicago Sky. And she's expressed this season already, she's wanted a trade. She's wanted out of Chicago. When she came in a couple years ago, she was expected to, you know, really be a critical part of their team. But this season in particular, she started as a starter on the team this season, and slowly her minutes dropped, started coming off the bench, and then towards the end of the season, there were games where she didn't even play. So I think that this makes a lot of sense. I don't think that Chicago kind of sees her necessarily as part of the future of that team, and she's expressed that she wants to get out. So you know what? This could be mutually beneficial for both parties.
Yeah, it's funny because there's definitely some tangible frustration on her end after her last regular season game. She said to the media, I went from starting to playing to not getting in the game. And you're really only being that specific and explicit, and everybody can see that. It's on the stat sheet. You know it from watching. But for her to say that out loud, that's like somebody picked me up.
Yeah.
Right? Like, come get me. And two, she is kind of a fan favorite. The crowd was chanting her name in the season, like we want her in the game, but we didn't see it. And so yeah, definitely a hot target for Golden State. So we'll see.
Yeah, so another marketable player, but also a good player. Like, she's a good 3-and-D player, a good piece that I think could be really valuable on the court too for Golden State. Okay, so I think our last one that we've selected here was Kate Martin. And you know what? This is one that a lot of people are kind of like uncertain about. Will she be available or will she not be available? And this really goes back to what we were talking about at the very beginning of this conversation when we were like, what are the different teams really going to value? Kate Martin is one of the most marketable players in the WNBA right now. Everybody loves her. She's Caitlin Clark's friend. She had that great story about how she just went to the draft to see Caitlin Clark, and then she ends up on the team. She ends up making the roster, and fans love her. But she's not necessarily right now one of those starting players on the Las Vegas Aces, although it does seem like she has a lot of potential, and she could be part of the Aces' future. So it's going to be interesting to see, does Las Vegas choose to protect her or not? But if they don't, I mean, I think that's a no-brainer for Golden State to pick her up.
This could be a great get for Golden State just because of her personality and who she is as a WNBA female athlete, right?
Yeah.
Like, she is a presence in the media. I just saw a video of her, I think, playing running frisbee with her personal trainer at the gym, and she was like, this might look like a fun game, but it's actually a great way to improve my speed and improve my competitive energy. And that's something too, like when you're training one-on-one, sometimes you have to find a way to tap into that competitive edge. And so it's cool to see what she's posting online, and clearly like taking the time by herself, outsourcing training too to get better. And so I love that pick.
Yeah, no, definitely like dedicated to her craft. I think too, something that's interesting about this, and this comes back to like stuff that the teams value, is she's on a really good deal right now too. So this kind of goes back to what we were saying at the beginning too. It's like, okay, maybe you would want to protect a rookie who has a really who's a really cheap deal right now for the team, versus protecting a UFA when it's like, well, they can only select one UFA anyways, because she is on a really great deal. She's on a second-round contract for the next 3 years, and this next offseason with the new CBA, that offseason, there's going to be a ton of unrestricted free agents that season. Their contracts are going to come up, and they're going to be getting better deals. So this Kate Martin deal is going to end up being really valuable too. So it could just be a really great contract for Golden State to select. Anyways, those are the 4 picks that I had. Did you have any extras?
I had one more, and this is not a shooting guard, not a guard.
Oh, so thank God.
We have a forward in the mix for Golden State, Isabelle Harrison. Forward, she's a veteran player. She's had 6 years in the league. And this is something too, kind of like what I said earlier, is you want to think about this when you're building a program. You need someone who has that experience, whether it's all winning, all losing, like, a combination of two. It all matters, and it all carries up, especially if they are looking to take players out of the draft and to take some of those rookies. She didn't get as much playing time as she has in the past because of Angel Reese on the team. So this is someone who definitely has the talent, definitely has the skill, but just because of circumstance on the Chicago Sky, she wasn't really able to have probably the season that she wanted. So I would say Isabelle for potentially going to Golden State.
That's a great pick. Okay, the big takeaway that I'm taking from all of this, though, is that this is extremely complicated. And, like, on the one hand, you have to think on the perspective of, like, Golden State and, what are they going to value, as well as what are the other teams going to value. And there's just so much unknown in all of this. And what I just can't believe is that this is going to be happening again next year, but times 2 with Portland and Toronto. So it's like, how is the league going to do this? Next year, it's going to be crazy. And just to think about, like, this league is going to look so different in 2 years from now. And just thinking about all of the different teams and where all these players are going to end up. And hopefully, I know that this is going to lead to a better product in the long term, but a lot of these, fans of these teams are going to be losing some players that they really love.
Yeah, this expansion draft is going to be looked under very carefully, really just to prepare for those next when we are adding 2 more teams for the next expansion draft. And even with the PWHL and when their future expansion drafts come, like, I think the leagues, even though they might not be the same sport or the same in the same time frame, you can really still learn from, okay, what worked, what didn't work, talking internally to GMs. I bet you there's a lot of internal conversations that go on as well. But I think one of the most exciting pieces of just expansion in general for professional women's athletics is that, yes, it's increasing more movement between the teams that are already in the league, but it also means that you're opening more roster spots for college athletes to one day become pro athletes. And that's something that is just going to open the door more so that, maybe a girl who's playing college basketball right now that might be on the edge, she might be on the edge for being in the WNBA or not. Now she might, in 2-3 years, have that opportunity.
And that's my favorite part about all of this, because every year during March Madness, we see these amazing stories of these women's basketball players that end up just not quite making it into the WNBA, that end up just not quite making it onto a roster. And it's so exciting that we're going to get to showcase more of those stories and more of those personalities. But Annabelle, I truly love this conversation. This is so fun. I love strategizing with you. Maybe we have a future as GMs. I don't know.
Sign us up. Okay, what team, if you could be the GM of any team, what team would you want to be?
Oh, wait.
What coming for your job?
I mean, honestly, though, I actually think the Golden State job is so fun because
California girl,
California girl, but also just that city. It's such a great basketball city with the Golden State Warriors. And that franchise is willing to invest in this team as well as the city. The city really just embraces women's sports there. And I mean, just the history of basketball too in the Bay Area with Stanford women's basketball being there and Tara Vanderveer and everything like that. I think that the Bay Area is such a great place for this team. And I was even there, last week when I went home for Thanksgiving, I stopped by the Bay Area and I saw Valkyrie stickers on cars already. And I even had a conversation with my cousin about it. It's people are so excited for this team already in the Bay Area and they haven't even played a game yet. So, no, I mean, I think it would be so fun to be part of a new franchise and to build something from the ground up. So that's the team I would want to be the GM for. What about you?
That's good. Well, it's crazy about the stickers. And I think I would have to agree with you. I think it'd be a really cool opportunity to be the GM of a new team, of a brand new team, because you start fresh. You also now have other teams that have gone through the expansion process to kind of learn from. I think the Atlanta Dream, they got to the finals within their third year of starting. And that was something that the Golden State Warriors, because Golden State Warriors owns this new team, this new WNBA team. And I think from ownership down to the head coach was hey, in 5 years, we won a championship, right? And so I think that would be something really cool as a fun challenge. Say, hey, you have a brand new program, you have a brand new organization. How fast can you get there?
And you know what? Teams in the past and other leagues have proven they can do it, especially when you look at the Las Vegas Golden Knights. They've proven, I mean, they almost won a Stanley Cup their very first season, Then they ended up doing it, 5 years later, 6 years later? They were able to check that off. So this has been done in the past. You can create a really good expansion team and you can have success quickly. So I don't know, just so much fun that I think is going to come from this draft. I'm really excited to tune in on Friday and see everything. So if you're enjoying this show, new episodes come out every Thursday. You can listen on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, YouTube, or anywhere you get your podcasts. All right, well, my head kind of hurts from talking about all that expansion stuff and all those rules, but we have something for you guys that is much more straightforward, that is actually starting the day that this episode comes out on Thursday, and that's the NCAA Volleyball Tournament is starting that day. And Annabelle, talk about a sport that has popped off in popularity, especially in the Midwest the past couple of years, but I mean, truly, volleyball is one of the most entertaining sports that I think you could watch. And it's so fun because everybody gets it. It's you don't want the ball to touch the floor, right? Everybody gets the rules. Anybody can watch it. Anybody can get invested. And talk about a sport that's just meant for TV and meant for viewership.
There aren't a lot of sports that it looks like the players are having fun the whole time. But volleyball, that's what it is. Constantly high five, constantly cheering, constantly bringing in and having a huddle. I know I lived with volleyball girls at Boston College, and when I went to their games, I was you guys just look like you have a smile on your face the whole game, but don't be fooled. That's just their way to stay positive and stay locked in. It's super intense, even though they have the glam, they look great while doing it, and it is very of an exciting environment.
Yeah, I mean, if I could go back in time, I would be a volleyball player because it looks like such a fun sport. And like you said, it looks like they're always having just so much fun and enjoying it. And they've got the chants and they've got everything going on.
Oh, the celebrations.
They've got the ribbons in their hair.
They're so good.
No, it's truly so fun. But truly the women are so athletic too. I remember when I used to work at Pac-12, the volleyball tournament every year, people loved watching it. We'd always have it on in the office, the Pac-12 volleyball tournament. People would be screaming in the office oh, get down, because whatever, a player needs to dive for a ball. Did you ever play volleyball growing up?
Okay, I so regret it. I did a 3-day volleyball camp, I think in like 4th grade.
Yeah.
My dad signed my sister and I up, and like we couldn't get past the 3 days because our forearms hurt so bad because it like broke down like all the tissue. And so I really wish I did. I do have so many friends though that play volleyball at a very high level, so I really wish it was something that I did, because when you go on vacation or you there's beach volleyball courts, and it's kind of a great skill to have.
Yes.
It might not be this like lifelong game like tennis or golf, but volleyball is a really impressive skill. If you
And you know
have
what? It's not easy to just pick up. Like, it's not like playing pickleball. You can't just like go out there and really learn. At least in my experience, I've tried. You can't just really go out there and learn to play volleyball. It's a tough one. But no, I'm truly so excited for this tournament. I think one of the big storylines is Texas is coming into it as a 2-time reigning national champions. They've won the past 2 seasons, so they're looking to three-peat this year. Will they be able to three-peat? I don't think so. I mean, they're currently ranked 13th in the AVCA poll. And you know what? They play in the SEC. And this isn't like the SEC of football. I said at the beginning of this segment that it's popped off in the Midwest, like the Big Ten and the ACC too now, especially this year. They're like the volleyball conferences. They're where you want to be. So, I don't think this is going to be Texas's year, but they are looking to three-peat. So that's could potentially be some momentum for them. I know we've each picked a team that we think is going to win, so who's yours?
Well, Laura, I have Texas.
What?
The third natty in a row. I thought this was really interesting, though. I was like, okay, this is pretty crazy, winning back-to-back national championships and really being in the running at seeded number 3 in the tournament. Who has done anything close to this? And it was Penn State in 2007, 2010. They won 4 national championships in a row, which is so wild. But I'm really putting my money on Madison Skinner. She was the best player in college volleyball last year. She's won 3 out of 4 national championships in those last 4, like crazy. And with different teams. She started with Kentucky, won the national championship there. Then the last 2 national championships with Texas, which is so wild. You just think about how cool that like hand ring, all the different rings on her hand would be. So I'm going to go with Texas because of their winning experience. I also had the opportunity to interview Emma Halter, the libero of the Texas team, for Sports Spectrum earlier in the fall. It actually comes out on Monday. And she has spent her first 2 years at Texas winning national championships. And something she said to me that was so interesting was, there's so much hype around their program right now because of their success in just being in that big time university. But they're really able to block out the noise and really hone in on, what matters, what's actually going to get us to win the game. And when you talk about playoff runs and when you play in these massive auditoriums in front of thousands of fans like volleyball, the viewership has just increased so much, and all that social media too, like they're haters, and it's real. Even in women's college basketball, this is a program that knows, hey, when we're in those playoff moments, we know what championship focus looks like. So I know they might not be the top ranked team right now, but I think I'm gonna have to go with Texas.
Okay, well, you swayed me maybe a little bit. Maybe I'll give them a little bit more respect. Put some respect on those Longhorns. But honestly, when you were doing the drum roll, I thought you were going to say, I'm picking your alma mater, Stanford.
Oh, no.
I am picking my own alma mater, Stanford, of course, to win the NCAA championship. But you know what? It's not just because I'm like fully biased and I'm a Stanford alum. I truly think that they could win this tournament. They're coming in as the 5th ranked team in the AVCA national poll. They've won their last 9 games. They've lost 4 games this season. 3 of those were to top 5 teams. So that's like the one thing that leaves me with a little bit of concern. It's like they haven't really found the ability yet to like consistently beat those top teams in the country. But that being said, their last win of the season was against Louisville, who ended this season ranked 3 in the AVCA poll, and they are currently the overall 4 seed going into this tournament. So anyways, Stanford as the overall number 5 seed, they will be hosting this first weekend. But if they do advance past this first weekend, past these first 2 matches, they won't be able to host. They'll actually be going to Louisville. And that I do think is a big thing. I think getting home advantage all the way through the regional round is such a big thing. So it's a bummer that they didn't get that 4 seed, that overall 4 seed. But you know what? I think that they're going to use that as momentum. I think they're going to use that to their advantage because they're going to feel slighted. They're going to feel like they had earned that number 4 seed, especially after having just beaten that team that got the number 4 seed in Louisville. So they're frustrated. They also have the ACC setter of the year in Cami Minor. She's going to be a senior this season. She was the Pac-12 setter of the year in her sophomore and junior season as well. So, you know what? Stanford just has something in the water, too, when it comes to setters. And I was there. There was a 3-time setter of the year in the Pac-12 conference, as well as right before I got there as well. So truly just like a great team with a lot of history. They're going for their 10th national championship as well. Like, this is just a team that knows how to win. They've been there before. And yeah, no, I think that I am predicting them with their experience, with their frustration having gotten that 5th seed, and with Cammie Minor being such a good player for them as well. I think that they're going to make it to the NCAA championship. And, you know, I got to see them win a championship in 2016 and 2018 on campus. I also got to watch them on TV win it in 2019, and I expect that I will be watching them win it at home again in 2024.
Well, we'll see. Maybe. I love that you shout out the setters, because I don't think setters in volleyball get enough credit, get enough hype, because really they are setting up the play, right? And so that's a great point. But Louisville too, like, this is a team that has been knocking on the door year after year after year, and they want to make it to that final game, so we'll see. Yeah, Louisville, Pitt, there's so many great teams that are going to be in this tournament, so definitely tune in. And if you're enjoying this show, make sure you tune in every Thursday. New episodes come out on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, YouTube, or anywhere you get your podcasts. All right, well, Annabelle, Josh Allen is having, like, the time of his life right now. He's the MVP frontrunner. He's making snow angels in his post-game interviews, and now he's engaged to Haley Steinfeld. I mean, can you really, like, top this year for him? And we saw pictures of the engagement. It looked like he set it up in heaven. Like, that is so good. Well, if I had to rename Josh Allen, it'd be Josh should propose before every game day Allen, okay? Because he absolutely popped off. Just like you said, he had passing touchdown, rushing touchdown, and receiving touchdowns. Like, are you kidding me? That is so wild. And yes, this is the most beautiful engagement. Okay? Oh my God. Like, can we save that forever? Do you think he lit all those candles himself? No. Are they candles, or were they sand? Were they glasses with sand? Because I actually, I did look at this very closely. I actually was wondering that as well. Yeah. Okay. So I think they're candles. I do think they're candles. Really? I feel like he maybe lit a couple. I don't know. It looks like they're on the beach, maybe near the wall. I don't know. Maybe it is a candle. It's maybe pink Josh everywhere. Allen, let us know. Was this like color graded to look like heaven, where it was like pink and like the sunset behind it? I don't know. I mean, it's a beautiful photo, a beautiful engagement. Yeah. Shout out to the photographer, the editing team, whoever got that photo. Oh, sand. Sand. Oh my God, you're right. It is sand. Well, that's interesting. I thought there would at least be candles in there. That's how do you feel about that? How do you feel about that? I don't know. I loved the shot. I can't imagine what that looked like walking up. I would love to know, like, how did it go down? What was the setting? All the things. But truly, like, what a fun week for Josh Allen. Oh my gosh. Yes. This actually happened back on November 22nd. So this has been like quite the stretch for him now, of just like an all-time run. So yeah, good for Josh Allen. That's awesome. 2 million likes on that photo as well, which is crazy. The comments on it, you got like NFL stars. You got people from Pitch Perfect awesome. that are commenting on it as well, like Rebel Wilson. Quite just like the group of people. But no, I am truly obsessed with that engagement, obsessed with that couple. And it's inspired us, actually, to talk about some other weddings and engagements from this past year. And I think the wedding that we, like, need to talk about, because I think it's going down as the wedding of the year, was Christian McCaffrey and Olivia Culpo. I mean, that was another really beautiful wedding in Rhode Island that took place over the summer. And, interesting is that her dress was actually kind of controversial. And when you look at this dress, you're like, how is this a controversial dress? It's like high neckline, long sleeves. Like, what can be controversial about it? Apparently, people said it was too conservative. Crazy talk. People beautiful are crazy. Wedding, that is absolutely absurd. She looked beautiful, and it's really not their place to want to determine how modest or not non-conservative she can be. And truly, like, she is a model, right? She's wearing things that are very model-esque, and so this was an opportunity for her to also make a statement of, hey, you might see me in these other outfits, you might see me being styled in this way, but this is what I'm going to choose to be in on my wedding day. And I thought that was a very mature way to handle it. And really, like, she looked gorgeous, so
No,
it doesn't matter.
She looked gorgeous. The photos that came out were incredible. And I actually had some former classmates that were at that wedding, that new Christian from Stanford. And what was interesting is they said they couldn't bring their phones in because they didn't want any pictures. They just wanted like real photographers there to take the photos. And I do like that, you know, it's like keep it, like I think it's nice to really just make it about the wedding and about the couple and not about everything that's happening on your phone. So another beautiful wedding. Another really good wedding that happened as well was Sabrina Ionescu and Hronis Grasso. They got, or Grasso. That's a tough one. I don't know if it's Grasso or Grasso, actually, now that I think about it. Anyways, Mr. Sabrina Ionescu is what we'll call him. But they got married in May, a beautiful wedding as well. And what was so exciting about this one was that the Oregon Duck was at the reception.
That is so fun. I hope a BC Eagle comes to my wedding reception. It might be cheesy, but I love that. One of my best friends was the Boston College mascot.
Yes.
I'm not going to expose who it was. You know who you are. But that is such a fun little detail. And think about this. 2 rings this year, WNBA and the MRS. Very fun for her. I literally wrote down as a question to ask you, would you like it if the BC Eagles showed up at your wedding? I think I would like it if I didn't know about it. Like,
okay,
if
it was a surprise.
I didn't know about it and it was a surprise, like, that's so fun, that's so funny. I think if I was the one who brought in the BC Eagle to my wedding, I think everybody would be like,
Mickey or Minnie Mouse to be at your
wedding.
wedding.
But, like, I love Disney, so.
Yeah, you know what? If that's your thing, that's totally fine. But I probably wouldn't.
If I married someone from BC, it would make sense. Otherwise, like, it probably wouldn't make sense.
Yeah, okay. All right, we already talked about Cameron Brink's engagement a lot this season, so we're not going to get into that again, but there was another WNBA proposal that we really wanted to talk about, and that's the Minnesota Lynx guard Courtney Williams. She proposed to her girlfriend Nishaya in November. Beautiful signage. Will you marry me? What do you think about the signage? Like, would you like that as part of your proposal? I
think the lights are very cool. I've always liked the light up lights, so I think it'd be very fun. I think there definitely is something special to the question being asked without having to like see it first, but she was blindfolded in some of the other photos walking in, so I really do wonder how it went down.
So with all these like really elaborate engagement proposals, I think they're beautiful. I love them for other people, and I hope and I think that it's exactly what these women and girls wanted. That's not what I want. Like
I love how on this show we basically have told everyone on Respect Her Game like what me and Laura want in like different ways.
It's gonna be them, it's gonna be me, and it's gonna be the ring. It's not gonna mean nothing else.
Oh my gosh, that's so funny. Okay, so Laura wants just a
plain proposal.
I'm sorry.
No, there's gonna be other details to it. Don't worry, I've got a whole list. But I don't want any signage. I don't want any.
This is a very normal thing for women, okay? To the men watching, this is a very normal thing to have, like, your engagement plan.
Yeah, well, it's not like it's planned, but like I've got ideas. What do you enjoy?
Pinterest boards. I know some girls do that.
I don't have any Pinterest boards. I just have like, you know, and like this would be nice. Like this would be nice, and I not over the top, but I mean these
are great examples. These are pretty fire examples to look to.
Yeah, if you're looking for inspiration, if you're a man watching this show,
this is the
and
show
you're looking for inspiration,
you.
I would say just checking out that Josh Allen proposal.
Yeah, that one wins. That one wins.
Another great proposal if you look at that was beautiful, but another great proposal if you're a sports fan was one that went down this past weekend at College Game Day. It was at the Texas College Game Day at Texas A&M, and a fan proposed during College Game Day, which was really fun, really exciting. And you know what, it got the college football rivalry week kicked off in like an upbeat, happy fashion, but you know what, didn't really last for long, because this college rivalry weekend is going to go down for fights, and it's going to go down for flag planting. This was one of, I think, the craziest college rivalry weekends we've seen. There were 8 high-profile games here with the fight. Michigan, Ohio State, NC State, UNC, Arkansas, Missouri, Auburn, Alabama, Notre Dame, USC, ASU, Arizona, Florida State, FSU, Texas A&M, and 4 of those games that I just listed included these like flag planting incidents, which I like can't believe I'm saying that.
Yeah.
But they included flag planting incidents. It was something that Baker Mayfield did back in 2017 when he planted the Sooners field at midfield during their Ohio State game after they beat Ohio State, and it's something that's kind of taken off ever since. And reporters spoke to Mayfield about it after the Bucks game this weekend, and this is what he said. He said, college football is meant to have rivalries. That's like the Big 12 banning the horns down signal. Just let the boys play. What do you think about all of this? Do you think that there should be rules that say you can't plant the flag at midfield? Do you think there should be more repercussions for these fights? What are your general thoughts on this?
Yeah, it's interesting because I think if what went down over rivalry weekend wasn't so violent and wasn't so chaotic, I probably would have erred on the side with Baker Mayfield. I'm like, yeah, it's sports. Like, everybody grow up. We can handle it. But clearly, college football can't handle it right now.
Yeah.
They can't, and they're bringing in violence after the game. Like, football is already an aggressive sport to begin with. Like, there is no need to take it and to let it escalate to the level that it did, especially in that Michigan-Ohio State game. What was there, like pepper spray used by the police? Like, in no way do the police need to be doing that with the players. I get it. Football is a very intense sport, especially because you are literally physically hitting your opponent throughout the game, and the tensions are high, rivalries are high, everyone's job are really on the line with some of these rivalry games. And so I just think that's the real issue with it, is that they can't handle it right now. Normally I'd say yes, like, it's part of sports, like, deal with it, but it can't get to that level, and it's far beyond taunting. It's reached a level of, this is too much.
Yeah, and that's exactly kind of like where I lean on it too. I'm like, I feel like there's two things going on here. There's the flag planting, and then there's the fights. The winning team gets to plant their flag, and then the losing team ends up getting really upset. I feel like they have typically been at least the instigators in these fights. And my original take on it would be like, you know what? No, this is part of college football. It's part of the pageantry. If you win, you get to plant your flag, whether it's at home or on the road. And you know what? Losing sucks. Like, that's part of college football. But clearly these teams can't handle it.
No.
Because
and
fighting is not.
But win well also. Like, do a good job winning. Like, that's part of it too, is like, how are you on the winning side?
Yes.
And I would say, like, you can't be representative of an entire team. Like, it wasn't like all of Michigan that was fighting, all of Ohio State that was fighting. There were players that weren't involved in that. Yeah. And I think a bright spot within this is in that Michigan and Ohio State game, there were a few Ohio State players and some Michigan players who took a knee and knelt together and prayed together, like, within the midst of all the chaos. Yeah. It was Travion Henderson, one of their star running backs, and tight end G. Scott Jr., and they really led that. And I think, that's a point of leadership to point to, is like, hey, this is how we handle after the game. Like, once the whistle blows, we are no longer really going at each other in that way.
I love that you bring that up. I love that you bring up kind of like a bright spot and kind of a point that everybody can look to. I think the one thing that I just kind of take away from this and thinking about the future is there has to be consequences for post-game fights. Like, they have to sit for the next game, whether that might be, a conference championship game, maybe that's a bowl game. I don't know. There has to be consequences, I think, for anybody that's instigating fights after the game is over. After that final whistle is called, that's it. That's your last opportunity. And no, I do think there has to be consequences, because I don't think that this is something that we want to see in college football. I don't really care about the flag planting, but the fights, that's got to go. Anyways, we got to get now to the PWHL season, which has gotten underway also on Saturday. With all the rivalries and fights going on, it might have flown under your radar, but the PWHL season is underway, and I actually got to talk to the head coach of the Boston Fleet earlier this season during training camp about the season that the Boston Fleet is expected to have this year. Welcome to another one-on-one interview. I am Laura Stickells, this time joined by the head coach of the Boston Fleet, Courtney Kessel. Courtney, season 2, just 2 weeks away, but first I think we should reflect on what a success season 1 was. So what really stands out to you about that inaugural season?
I mean, so many things. I think the crowds, the rinks we got to play in, the whole season, it was a little bit of a roller coaster, obviously some highs and some lows, and everyone really just trying to figure it out and figure out the schedule with travel, but just an incredible end to our year, and obviously we fell short, but I think so many things to be excited about.
Well, with a new season comes a new roster and a lot of new players here at training camp, one of those being Jillian Dempsey, although she's definitely no stranger to New England, having played at Harvard and then being a captain for the Boston Pride for 6 seasons. I know she played in Montreal last year, but what does her return to New England mean to this team?
Yeah, we're excited to have her. I think, like you said, a Boston native, and unfortunately we didn't get her in the draft. and we had to play against her last year there. But we're excited to have her. I think her experience in the locker room, like you said, she's been a captain. She's a leader. She's a natural leader, and so I think we're excited to see how that is and how training camp goes and leading into that.
What do you expect to get from her on the ice?
You're going to get a smart 200-foot hockey player. You know, she's got a great stick, good details. She's willing to play physical, although she's not too big. So I think we're looking forward to that.
Another new player is Ilona Markova, and if she does make this roster, she will be the first Russian player to play in the PWHL. What did you and Danielle Marmer see in her when you were looking to draft her? Because there can be complications when it comes to visas and bringing in international players.
Yeah, just a very crafty player. I think that adds something different to your roster, to your lineup, and so we're really excited to have her here and to see what she can do at this level, this speed, and with the physicality.
What are some of the differences that you might expect to see translating from that Russian to the U.S. game?
I really think her individual plays, like her little 5-foot plays, she sees the ice really well, and I'm excited to see that because I think that brings something different to our lineup.
Who's really stood out as a leader so far in training camp?
Other than our normal leaders?
Yes, other than the normal.
It's tough. We really just kicked off. I mean, Elena Mueller, she's a tremendous leader on and off the ice. Just her work ethic alone and her willingness to continue to want to get better, although she's been on the Olympic stage since she was 13 years old. So it's pretty incredible to see just how much better she wants to get every single day.
I know I'm personally very excited to see the new logo, the new name, the new jerseys out on the ice. I love that you're repping some of it right now, but what does having a new logo and a new name do for really the character and the identity of the group?
I think it just allows, you know, our audience to buy in a little bit more, and I think it's incredible what we came up with. Really resonates with all the Bostonians, and I think they're excited. Our fleet gear's flying off the shelves. Our ticket sales have been great, so I think it allows them to buy in a little bit more to what we're part of here.
What does the name Fleet mean to you?
I think just moving in the same direction, really just being resilient, and I think we saw that really at the end of the year is how our group really came together going in the same direction.
Okay, now that you've had the opportunity to play all of the teams in the league last season, who really kind of stands out as being a potential rival for Boston?
I think we'll see Montreal being one of our rivals. You know, the way playoffs ended up, I don't think, obviously, heading into that, anyone could have assumed that that's how it was going to end up. So I'm sure they can't wait to play us.
Well, speaking of potential rivals, one of them could be Minnesota, especially when you do look at the way that last season ended. I know you get to start the home schedule off, though, against them. So what's it like having the opportunity to face them for the first time back at Tsongas Center after losing to them in Game 5 last year?
It's exciting. I think every time, you know, you play Minnesota, they're fast, they're crafty, they know how to score goals. We have to score more than them, obviously, but we've been waiting to play them since the buzzer went and we lost there in the final.
All right, well, thank you for your time, Courtney. Good luck this season.
Thank you.
If you're enjoying the show, new episodes come out every Thursday. You can listen on Apple, Spotify, YouTube, or wherever you get your podcasts. All right, well, we've got one last thing that we really want to talk about, and it's the Chiefs' new Christmas movie that came out. It's called Holiday Touchdown, A Chiefs Love Story. I watched it last night on the Hallmark Channel. I know you watched it, I think, a couple days ago. There have been a lot of, like, Chiefs, Taylor Swift, Travis Kelce themed movies that have come out over this holiday season, this being one of them, and we're going to review it. I'm going to do my best to explain it to you. Also, if you haven't seen it and you want to watch, spoilers ahead, obviously, so maybe just like mute for a couple minutes and come back for our Would You Rather.
Movie, you can probably guess the storyline.
You can probably guess how it ends. I'm going to do my best to explain this movie, but it was kind of complicated. There were some like themes involved, right? So there's kind of two storylines going on. There's this hat that they have where it's like if they wear this hat on Christmas, if this family wears this hat on Christmas, then the Chiefs win the Super Bowl that year. And the other storyline is that there's this family, the main character in the movie, her name is Alana. Her family is up for like the Chiefs Fan of the Year. And there's three other fans in the running. One is Patrick Mahomes, which like literally had me dead. It's this cat that looks like Pat Mahomes. I was like deceased. Anyways, one is Patrick Mahomes. I don't even remember who the other one was. In my opinion, it was like, see, there's Patrick. Look at his like the hairstyle going on there.
Patrick.
So it was like basically Patrick and Alana going head to head for Fan of the Year, and she was the Fan of the Year because of this Christmas hat. Anyways, there's also like a man involved who's a love interest who works in the Chiefs marketing department.
No, in a Hallmark movie? Really?
There's a man involved.
A romance?
There's a man involved who works in the Chiefs marketing department, and he's in part like in charge of selecting
Who falls in love with the hometown girl working at her family business? There's no way.
He's in charge of selecting fan of the year. But anyways, as you could probably guess, they do win fan of the year. Alana like loses the hat, but then it ends up like turning up magically somehow because of like the Christmas
Okay, not
spirit.
too much for people who haven't seen the movie.
Oh, well, we already said spoilers ahead. But anyways, what is your big takeaway from this movie?
I think I loved the reality of the movie within the Hallmark. Like, kind of like I was joking, like, oh, she meets the perfect guy, everything works out in the end, they become fan of the year. Yes, but there is also so much reality within the Chiefs. Usually in these Hallmark movies, you don't really see any, like, real logos. There was Chiefs gear everywhere. They had footage of NFL games. They showed Arrowhead Stadium, being in Arrowhead Stadium. And so I think, for me, that was the cool part, is to bring in the real parts of our world with a Hallmark movie that feels so magical. And really, too, like, fan of the year is a thing that every NFL team does. Just bringing in that culture and really that theme of fandom. Like, some people truly do believe if I sit in this seat, or if I eat this thing, or if, we both go to the game together, we're going to win. And I think there's something really special in sports culture about fandom. And I think they did a great job of really touching on that.
Yeah, the two big things that kind of stood out to you about what you said is I loved, too, that the Chiefs got so involved. Like, they helped to promote it. They even, like, posted on social media, like, holiday touchdown is coming out, as well as there were amazing player cameos in this, too. In addition to Donna Kelsey and Andy Reid, they both made cameo appearances. Although I have to say, the Andy Reid cameo in the movie, like, cracked me up, and I just didn't feel like it was realistic, because I feel like Andy Reid is, like, kind of into the whole love story thing, especially, when you think about Travis Kelce and Taylor Swift. But his line in the movie, he, like, broke them up when Alana and the marketing guy, I think, what's his name? Derek. When Alana and Derek had their, big moment in at the logo in center field after they were announced as, fan of the year during that Christmas Day game, he was like, all right, guys, get off the field. Like, we need it to play the game or whatever. And I was like, you know what? I don't think Andy Reid would have done that. I think he would have let them have their moment.
Yeah, I think he liked being in it. I think he said, I really didn't have a big part, but the movie, it was probably better that I wasn't in it. Wouldn't be as good. And so I liked his humor there. But it is really fun because typically in commercials and things alongside players, you see like the mom or the wife or the female in their family. But it is fun to see Coach Reid in that moment.
Who were you more surprised to see, Donna Kelsey or Andy Reid?
I think Andy Reid, just because of the nature of that. Like, Donna, I could see her being more in like a Hallmark-esque movie, but this was very interesting to see Andy Reid.
Yeah. No, I thought it was really funny too. I was kind of surprised to see Donna in it because I feel like she's kind of tried to like take a little bit more of a back seat when it comes to that stuff, but she did a great job. I loved her role as like the person at the barbecue shop. No, she did a great job too. I thought the players had some really good cameos too. Who was it? Nicole Hardman had a great line with Catrick, and I was reading about this too. Apparently, he has aspirations to act. So, you know what? This is kicking off.
They're doing it all. This organization is doing it all.
They're doing it all. But you know who was really good was Trey Smith. His cameo, I don't even remember what his lines are, to be honest. But I remember watching it, and I was like, he's a good actor. Like, this is realistic. I think I forget what he was saying. Oh, he was saying how much they believed in Alana's Christmas hat at the Christmas party. But you know what? And I think that's perfect. That brings me back to kind of my last point, which is this was really, like you said, it was about fandom, and it was about how sports is believing in something that's bigger than yourself and how it brings you together with the community, with your family, with your friends, and how you can all really unite around something. So I think it did a really good job in kind of showcasing that. And as far as Hallmark movies go and Christmas movies go, I thought this one was really well done.
Yeah, I usually watch a lot of Hallmark movies during Christmas, and this was one of my favorites.
All right, I agree. I think we have time for one Would You Rather. What do you say?
Let's do it. I'm excited.
Let's do one Would You Rather. You can pick today.
Okay, for Laura, the first Would You Rather. Ooh, would you rather be the best libero in the NCAA or lead the league in aces?
Okay, I would rather be the best libero in the NCAA because you get to wear like the alternate jersey. You get to have your own color.
Laura wants to be special. She wants to stand out on the court.
And you know what? I'm only 5'4", so I don't think I have much chance other than to be a libero. What about you?
You know, I'm around the same height, so I probably would have to go with that as well. And I know a lot of really cool liberos, so.
All right, I think we're going to do one more because I just can't resist. You're going
ready.
to answer this in like 15 seconds. It's going
ready.
to be a record question. Oh, perfect. Would you rather have a Hallmark movie be made based on your true story or be the star actress in the movie?
Oh my gosh, okay. I think it would be so cool to be an actress, so like just putting that out there. If like any agent wants to know, I would love to be in a Hallmark movie. But Hallmark movies usually end up with like fairy tale endings, so if like that could be part of my story, that'd be pretty cool. So
Perfect.
I mean, if it could be written, I mean, that's a win-win.
Maybe we'll get your Josh Allen style engagement sometimes. All right, well, with that, thank you for watching another episode of Respect Her Game, and we will see you guys next week.